It's in a area that we call Uptown.
And it's full of very expensive apartments, nice restaurants.
No, all I heard was screaming and then a loud pop, and then I saw her laying on the floor.
Kendra was the all-American beauty, captain of her high school cheerleading team. It just didn't make sense.
And so at this point, we're asking for the public's assistance in identifying and locating that vehicle and any occupants that may have been in that vehicle at the time.
Normally when we bring people in that are suspects in murder investigations, they're super nervous and kind of closed off and guarded. Brenda was the exact opposite of that. Would you say it's a big coincidence that your ex-boyfriend's girlfriend ends up dead?
All Brenda could talk about was Ricky and Kendra, and how she wanted someone to hurt Ricky or Kendra.
Today we are announcing the addition of capital murder suspect Brenda Delgado to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list.
Why did she want to get rid of Kendra Hatcher?
Because she was envious of her.
I couldn't imagine who would do it. I couldn't imagine who would hurt her.
Who the hell do you think you are, Brenda?
Your wife is in a bar. You said she's unresponsive.
This is what he's going to tell you.
How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Hi, someone just got shot in the parking lot of the Gables Park 17 in P1.
They got cameras that come in and out of this place?
Yeah, they're checking on it right now.
Okay, did you see someone that was shot?
Yeah, no, all I heard was screaming and then a loud pop, and then I saw her laying on the floor, and it was like red, like blood coming out of her neck. And her bones on the floor, her car door was open. I don't know what happened.
She has a police badge on her sun visor.
Watch where you step. Step back over there for me, okay? Just to let you know, there's one homicide detective for the entire city tonight. He knows about this.
I just arrived home, and it was one of those things where I made a quick U-turn, hopped in my car, and started headed back to Dallas.
When Dallas homicide detective Eric Barnes got the call, he was surprised about the location of the shooting.
It's in a area that we call Uptown, and we don't normally have a lot of violent crime in that area.
And it's full of very expensive apartments, nice restaurants.
Reporter Skip Hollinsworth covered the case from the start for Texas Monthly.
This is an upscale world where there are no shootings in the parking garage. There is no desperate acts done by people. It just didn't make sense.
Initially, the first thing that came to mind was that it was probably a robbery. We found out her name was Kendra Hatcher. She had moved to the Dallas area where she was working at a pediatric dentist office in Irving, Texas.
Kendra was the all-American beauty, captain of her high school cheerleading team. She was a devoted Christian.
She was my yoga student. She was amazing. She was beautiful, outspoken, just the beautiful smile. And, why her? Cannot believe her. Why it has to be her?
We got surveillance footage from the parking garage. It was kind of grainy, but we were able to determine that there was a vehicle that pulled in, kind of circled the garage for a little bit, and parked near her vehicle, or parked where her parking spot was prior to the shooting. During the time that Kendra came in and parked, she had been in her parking space for maybe 2 seconds before an individual got out of the back of this vehicle and walked towards her car, and we believe that was the shooter.
I want to talk about the homicide that occurred on Cedar Springs last night. And so at this point, we're asking for the public's assistance in identifying and locating both that vehicle and any occupants that may have been in that vehicle at the time.
Kendra's boyfriend, Dr. Ricardo Paniagua, was the first to respond.
And he informed me that the individual that he saw on the surveillance footage and from the still photo reminded him of his girlfriend, Brenda Delgado.
His ex-girlfriend.
He told me that they dated for a couple years, that they actually lived together. They broke up prior to him dating Kendra.
And then the homicide tip line got a call from an auto mechanic who said he was the owner of the Jeep Cherokee.
Coincidentally, once I started talking with him, he brought up Brenda's name again. And so she was having mechanical issues with her car, so he provided his Jeep as kind of a loaner vehicle for Brenda. Things are starting to line up pretty quick, and I'm thinking Brenda is definitely someone we need to talk to. Like I said, I appreciate you coming down to talk to me.
Yes, sir. Of course. Tell me what I can help with.
Okay.
Brenda Delgado was the daughter of a Mexican factory worker who came to Dallas so she could get a good education.
She wanted to go to college, but her parents couldn't afford it. So she decided to become a dental hygienist. She went to an evangelical church. She was very loyal to her family, to her friends. She didn't drink too much. She didn't flirt too much.
Of course, I'm working a murder investigation.
Yes.
Young lady was killed on Wednesday, and I'm the guy that's assigned to the case. Your name came up in the investigation, so I wanted to sit down and talk with you.
Yeah.
Kind of.
How did my name come up? I don't.
Okay, I'll explain all of that to you.
Yes, I want to know.
Normally, when we bring people in that are suspects in murder investigations or persons of interest in murder investigations, they're super nervous and kind of closed off and guarded. And Brenda was the exact opposite of that. She was very friendly. She appeared to be trying to build a personal relationship with me at the same time I'm trying to build one with her.
I am second. I like that.
Yeah. I had a I am second bracelet that I wear. You know, I was volunteering as part of an organization to help out with kids that were arrested for violent crimes. And she immediately started telling me, oh, I'm a member of that, I believe, you know, in Jesus. And she was trying to build a bond with me through my religious affiliation.
I'm part of it. Yeah. All my family, they're true believers, and I want to cooperate. I want to know what's going on, and I want you to.
Okay. Well, I would be 100% honest with you.
Yes.
That's what you can count on from me.
And I will be too.
She, of course, told me that, you know, she knew about the murder based off of the news, but she had no idea who Kendra Hatcher was. This is the picture of the young lady that got killed. Never seen her before?
I've never seen her.
Okay. You know, she was a dentist.
Mm-hmm. I don't have no idea who she is, who she's dating, the name, I have no idea. He just kind of said, hey, I'm seeing someone.
But Brenda had a solid alibi. She had been at a library all day studying with a classmate for her dental technician's license.
Okay.
And I studied from maybe 12 all the way to about 6.
And then to a Chili's restaurant with another friend.
All right, you said you had the receipt in your bag?
Yeah, I can show you.
Yeah,
over here.
Yeah, let's get that.
Yeah, of course. I thought I can give you other numbers I can.
And she had a receipt at the very top of her wallet that she was ready to hand off, you know.
We closed out at 8. Actually, it was later. 8:57.
Okay, you closed out at 8:57. It was a little too good. Do you mind if I hang on to this?
Go ahead. No, yeah, keep it.
Okay.
I don't need it.
But it did prove that it could not have been Brenda seen on the surveillance video driving the Jeep Cherokee. And then Brenda said she knew who was driving the car that day, a friend of hers named Crystal.
No, it wasn't me. It was Crystal, the girl that took me.
Okay.
Because I didn't have a car.
So did Crystal borrow a vehicle?
Yes. It was Crystal borrowed her vehicle to take me to the library.
Okay, so where did Crystal borrow one of his cars?
Yes.
What kind of car did she borrow?
It was that car.
Crystal borrowed his Jeep? Okay.
That car, I think, yeah. That car. That Jeep that used to show me in the picture.
Yeah, there was very little resistance at all when I asked about who Crystal was and if I could get a phone number. She was ready to serve Crystal up on a dish.
And soon Crystal was in an interrogation room down the hall from Brenda with her own story to tell.
We kind of had a game of cat and mouse going.
We are digging for new details this morning in the murder that has shaken a Dallas community.
This murder has really rocked their sense of security.
At this point, no word on who the suspect or suspects may be.
Detectives have been out all night and throughout today, canvassing the other businesses in the area, looking for additional evidence, surveillance footage, what have you, talking with residents, talking with potential witnesses.
And now at the Dallas Police Headquarters, a kind of Texas two-step was underway. In interrogation room number 2, Brenda Delgado, wrapping herself in blankets in the air-conditioned room, with an airtight alibi and claiming total ignorance of what happened. Down the hall, in interrogation room number 4, a woman named Crystal Cortez, a friend of Brenda's, and a challenge for Detective Eric Barnes.
Her stories were all over the place, and she's a pathological liar.
But Crystal Cortez readily admitted being the driver of the Jeep Cherokee tied to the murder scene.
She gave me 3 or 4 different stories about where she was at, how she ended up in the parking garage, what happened once she got in the parking garage.
Her first version was that a masked man forced her to do it.
The guy gets in my seat and he puts the gun right here. My son's in the back. My son is in the back. My instinct is I'm just shocked and nervous as anybody else.
You know, that sounded like something out of a Hollywood script, and murders just don't happen like that. So one of the things we used to kind of defeat that story was the surveillance footage.
The footage showing she made no effort to take off once the gunman left the car.
One of the last stories that she told me was that Brenda hired her to go to this parking garage, and she wanted Kendra Hatcher's purse, and specifically her ID card.
All for just $500 and some drugs, according to Crystal.
And now I have money exchange for a robbery that took place, and the shooter is in the car, so now we have a capital murder. I had enough to put Crystal in jail at that point. I couldn't wait to get back in the room with Brenda. Now I actually have some teeth and actually some traction on this investigation. And I just got done talking to Crystal. We had a very interesting conversation. And I know that you haven't been truthful with me. Okay. So I know what this is about. And so what I'm asking you for is for the truth.
I mean, that's the truth. I was not driving.
Okay, I know you weren't driving. I know you weren't there. I know who was driving. I know Crystal was driving. Okay? And I know what happened. Okay? And I know what the agreement that you made.
There was no agreement. I mean...
No agreement. So now I start going back to work on Brenda. I didn't quite have enough. I need a little more from her. Something that I could use against her to arrest her. Would you say it's a big coincidence that your ex-boyfriend's girlfriend ends up dead and your friend ends up driving in the same parking lot that this happens at around the same time that it happens in a Jeep that you borrowed?
I think Crystal borrowed the Jeep. I think that's what we're getting, because I wasn't. She needed the car. Okay. I didn't need the car.
But even that, okay. The young lady that ends up dead, her boyfriend, the relation is you. You to him, to her. Crystal ends up in this parking garage. Your friend, your friend's Jeep, your ex-boyfriend's girlfriend. All 3 of those things point back to you. That is you. You're the common theme in all of these things. So what I'm asking you is, how does this happen? The Mr. Nice Guy routine was out the window, and I needed to shake her up a little bit because emotionally she was still unbothered. You know, she was still playing the sweet and innocent role. This isn't rocket science. People will put this together very fast. That's why I'm asking you, why?
No, I'm telling you, I didn't do anything. I had no motive.
You had plenty of motive. There's plenty of motive. I think it was hate. I think you hated the fact that you weren't good enough. That's the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. You weren't good enough for Ricky. Maybe he didn't like the way you looked.
I didn't.
Maybe something you did got on his nerves. Maybe he didn't want a dental hygienist anymore. Maybe he wanted a dentist. Maybe you just weren't good enough for him. Maybe his standards were a little bit too high for you. But for whatever reason, you weren't good enough for him. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
I mean, I don't have any feelings like you were saying. I really don't have any. Like, I didn't even know who the girl was. I had no idea.
That's not true. You know who his girlfriend is. Just like you knew where he was taking his salsa lessons at, because you follow him.
Her ex-boyfriend, the doctor, had told Detective Barnes that Brenda suddenly showed up where he was taking salsa lessons, and then suddenly showed up on a running path where he was jogging.
Crystal has no reason to want her dead. You know who has the motive? You know what Crystal's motive was? To make some money to feed her kid. And I can understand that. You took advantage of that.
No.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You took advantage of her. And you paid her to do your dirty work.
No, that's not true. I told you it was just very casual. I have no motives for this guy.
No motives for who?
For Ricky, there's nothing. There's nothing there. There's no motive.
So why do you want his girlfriend dead?
I don't. I didn't even know who he was seeing. I don't even know who he was dating.
Okay. You don't know. You don't know. Give me a second.
Can I just get my attorney at this time? Because I don't think I just need my attorney because you're not understanding me. You're not listening to me. You're not understanding me.
It's either,
I have no...
Here's the thing. It's either yes or no. It's either yes, we can continue this conversation, or no, you need your attorney. I knew that I had the right person.
But prosecutors told Barnes he still did not have enough to charge Brenda Delgado with murder. So the best they could do was hold her for outstanding traffic tickets.
And due to crowding issues at the jail, they expedited the amount of time that she was held there. So she wasn't held too long, just several hours. Within 48 hours of her being at our office, being questioned on this murder, she was en route to Mexico.
Today we are announcing the addition of capital murder suspect Brenda Delgado to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list, and announcing a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to her arrest. Delgado should be considered armed and dangerous, given her alleged crime involved the use of a firearm.
She became one of the few women in American history who was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
Once I found out she left the country, I shifted my focus more into figuring out who my gunman was.
Detective Barnes discovered there was a common number in the phone records of both Brenda Delgado and Krista Cortez.
And I'm interviewing Crystal, and I show her the phone number, and she tells me that's his number. That is the shooter's number.
His name was Christopher Love, known to police as a small-time marijuana dealer.
It's a Miranda warning. You have the right to remain silent, not make any statement at all. I think we may have had him in the interrogation room somewhere between 21 and 22 hours in total.
A dentist?
A dentist. Female dentist, white female named Kendra Hatcher. Was killed in a parking garage.
Nah, that would have got anything to do with me.
Okay.
I don't even know what that's it. A white dentist, man, be serious.
Well, I'm just saying, you know.
And what about someone named Brenda or Crystal?
Yeah, you ever seen this girl?
Is she white?
She's Hispanic. She looks white, got light skin.
I don't know her though.
You don't know her? Okay. But what is it?
I don't know these people. Are they white or messy?
Love repeatedly denied being the man in the surveillance video, even denied that he owned a gun.
I ain't threw no guns. I ain't had no guns. I ain't shot nobody.
All right. Hey, man, do me a favor. Sit tight, I'll be right back.
Love's car had been towed into the auto pound, and after first failing to find a weapon, an ATF explosive-smelling dog named Titan happened to be there for a demonstration.
And Titan led him straight to the gun. It was on the passenger side of the vehicle, just underneath the center console. We did a search warrant on your car, and we found a gun in your car.
So y'all found a gun in my car?
Under the center console? This gun right here. You ever seen that gun before?
Yeah.
You have? Whose gun is that? That's your gun? Okay.
Tonight, we announce the arrest of Christopher Love, the person we have identified as having shot Dr. Hatcher.
So now the murder board looked like this. Brenda Delgado at the center, alleged to have hired Christopher Love and Crystal Cortez to murder her ex-boyfriend Ricky's new love, her rival, Kendra Hatcher. Friends and family told reporter Skip Hollingsworth how Brenda's breakup with Ricky took over her life.
All Brenda could talk about was Ricky and Kendra, and how she wanted someone to hurt Ricky or Kendra. She was falling apart. She was descending into this darker world that she had never been in.
And when police finally downloaded Brenda's phone, they found dozens of pictures of Kendra and Ricky.
What Ricky didn't know was that Brenda had a kind of spy operation going on. She had access to his iCloud, to his texts, to his phone calls. And she realizes they're going to Cancun. And she wants to kill Kendra before Ricky gets the chance to take her to Cancun. And suddenly, Brenda, the Christian girl who had raised herself on her own bootstraps, had a team of hitmen ready to help her out for $500 to kill her romantic rival.
Kendra was gunned down the night before she and Ricky were scheduled to fly to Cancun. Before being taken away to jail, Christopher Love had one last question.
When y'all going to get Brenda?
We're gonna work on getting Brenda, man.
Hey, y'all gonna work on it. Y'all need to go get her. Y'all came and got me.
What's that?
Y'all came and got me. Y'all need to be going to get her.
We're going to get her.
Cause she the puzzle y'all, the top of the puzzle y'all need.
In speaking with him, he told me that Brenda promised him a lifetime supply of cocaine and drugs. I think he was overpowered by the idea that he was gonna be the next biggest drug dealer in Dallas.
The murder trial of Christopher Love took only a few days, and he faced the death penalty after rejecting a deal for him to testify against Brenda.
Love was very adamant that he didn't want to take anything. He was not interested in testifying against anybody.
But Crystal Cortez had accepted a plea deal for 35 years, and she was the main witness against Love.
One of the plans were to inject her with the needle. Another plan was to shoot her directly, and another plan was to kidnap her.
And did Mr. Love have a plan that he preferred?
He pretty much said that it would be easier just to kill her with the gun.
Crystal obviously was the glue that put the whole case together. The videotape was the strongest evidence, certainly, but Crystal came in and pointed and put together the pieces and the background for everything that took place.
State's Exhibit 110, do you recognize this photograph?
That's my hand with money in it.
That's my what?
My hand with money in it.
The $500 in bills arranged in the shape of a heart.
Okay. And what's the significance of this money?
That was my payment for completing the task of driving Christopher Love to kill Kendra Hatcher.
And I'll never forget interviewing Crystal in the jail, and I said, "Why would you do that? A murder for $500? And she said, "You don't know what it means to be broke, do you?"
The cross-examination of Crystal Cortez was brutal.
The only thing that means anything to you is saving Crystal Cortez.
No, sir.
Well, what means something to you, ma'am?
It does mean that there will be justice for Kendra Hatcher.
Oh, so all of a sudden now you're worried about justice for Kendra Hatcher?
Yes, sir.
The jury took 3 hours to reach its verdict on Christopher Love.
Sir, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
And is your verdict as follows? We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
Yes.
And that is the unanimous verdict of the jury. Thank you, sir, for your deliberations.
At the sentencing, Kendra's sister Ashley spoke for the family back in Illinois.
Her family will never be the same. The this doesn't happen in Central Illinois. We didn't know that evil like this existed. She was full of life and full of love and just gave everything she had to everybody. And when I heard that this had happened to her, I know I'm getting off topic, but I couldn't imagine who would do it. I couldn't imagine who would hurt her because nobody disliked her. Nobody would have heard of her that knew her.
I have received a unanimous verdict from the jury. Mr. Love, would you stand, please, sir? You shall be confined until the director of that institution receives an order by this court to carry out the sentence of death by lethal injection. Good luck to you, sir.
And now the focus shifted to Brenda Delgado, a $100,000 reward on her head.
And there's people that'll give up their own mother for $100,000. So within a few hours, we were able to get some credible tips on where her location was.
And after 6 months on the lam in a small town in Mexico, Brenda Delgado had been tracked down and extradited to the United States to stand trial for murder. Detective Barnes was at the airport when she arrived.
You know, my eyes were saying, I told you I was gonna get you.
And now to Texas, where a second person is on trial over the alleged love triangle murder for hire plot, which left a young dentist dead.
The Christopher Love trial was almost like an appetizer. Brenda was the main course.
Thank you, sir. To the indictment, has your client plead guilty or not guilty?
Your Honor, not guilty.
Thank you.
She had her hair back and she was wearing thick glasses. She looked scholarly. She looked harmless. She looked like a librarian.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Dallas County Assistant District Attorney Kevin Brooks delivered the opening.
At the end of this trial, we will have shown you beyond all reasonable doubt that Kendra Hatcher is dead, and she's dead because of the actions of one person, or the planning of one person, the desire of one person. Sitting right there.
I think the prosecution was really buttoned up. It felt to me like they were smart.
Juror Casey Miller had his eyes on Brenda throughout the opening statement.
She had a stone-cold face, just sort of sat and stared.
Defense lawyer George Milder knew the case would hinge on the testimony of Crystal Cortez, who he said was the mastermind of a robbery gone bad.
I expect these police and everybody are going to say, well, Crystal Cortez didn't have any motive to kill her. Really? Robbery is a motive. That Crystal is a liar beyond imagination. She lies when it matters. She lies when it doesn't matter. She lies over things that are irrelevant. She lies over things that no one will believe. At the end of this trial, I ask you to cut this woman loose, find her not guilty, and send a loud, clear message to the state of Texas. We don't believe Crystal Cortez, and we sure don't believe her beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm going to ask you to find Brenda Delgado not guilty because she is not guilty. Thank you.
To lay the groundwork for Crystal Cortez, the prosecution wanted to show there were others Brenda had also asked to carry out attacks, including her cousin, Moses Martinez.
This appear to be the baseball bat that she showed you?
I think, yes, sir.
What specifically were you supposed to do with that baseball bat?
She wanted me to hit her.
And Brenda's roommate, Jennifer Escobar.
She told me that first she wanted Ricky in a coma with the bat that is right in front of me. Also, for Kendra Hatcher, an injection needle to put it in her back of her neck. She just wanted to eliminate Kendra Hatcher or even both of them.
Introduce yourself to the jury, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Dr. Ricardo Paniagua.
Now, the man at the center of the love triangle testified he had no idea that Brenda had been stalking him when he kept running into her.
At the time, I thought it was just coincidence.
No idea of the anger and jealousy building up in Brenda after their breakup.
We were platonic friends.
And Ricky had been staring straight forward and refused to look over in that direction and finally had to.
You see Brenda Delgado in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
And Brenda, who had been staring straight forward, turned and looked at him.
Can you, and I understand it's difficult, can you point to her and describe an article of clothing that she's wearing?
And just for a few seconds, they locked eyes.
She's at the end of the desk, and she's wearing a dark jacket.
Your Honor, we'd ask that the record reflect this witness has identified the defendant in open court.
Record will reflect.
Pass the witness.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Crystal's testimony was very important. She was very believable to me. She admitted on the stand that she was part of a capital murder plot. She admitted that she drove the vehicle.
Are you guilty of the capital murder of Kendra Hatcher?
Yes, I am.
Is Christopher Love guilty of the murder of Kendra Hatcher?
Yes, he is.
Is Brenda Delgado guilty of the murder of Kendra Hatcher?
Yes, she is.
Will Brenda Delgado discuss Ricky and Kendra Hatcher to you?
Yes.
What was the discussion?
She wanted to get rid of Kendra Hatcher
And why did she want to get rid of Kendra Hatcher?
because she was envious of her.
And then describing what was happening in the parking garage, as seen on the surveillance camera footage.
Miss Kendra comes in and she parks catty corner to where we park. And Christopher Love gets off the vehicle through the driver's side in the back. And he exits the vehicle, closes the vehicle, and he approaches Kendra. And I didn't see him kill her, but I heard the shots fired. He ran into the Jeep with Kendra's belongings, her purse, and a Nikon camera.
Why does he have those items?
Because Brenda wanted it to make it look like a robbery gone bad.
Did you get paid for this?
Yes, I did.
What did you get?
I got $500.
And who paid you?
Brenda did.
And that was in exchange for committing this murder of Kendra Hatcher?
Yes.
We find that you're lying to us. If we were able to confirm that what you're telling us is not truthful, you understand the consequences of that?
Yes, I will possibly face a death penalty.
That's the part that's really key, and I can't wait for the defense to cross-examine her. That's what we're all waiting for, because this is the prosecution's star witness. Their whole case really, really centers around this woman. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Right now, Crystal Cortez on the stand under cross-examination, so the defense is pulling out all the stops to discredit her testimony.
You said you did not tell the whole truth. Do you recall that?
Yes. I told them half the truth.
As you get cornered like a rat, you start telling another lie.
I object to the characterizations of Mr. Miller.
As you get hopelessly caught in one lie, you start telling another one, correct?
Sometimes. When I was being interviewed because I didn't know what to say and what not to say.
The more the defense tried to poke holes in her story, the more I believed her. And it was really apparent to me that she was like a 20-something-year-old single mom. She was not the mastermind of anything. She was not the brains behind anything.
Christopher Love is obviously a very horrible, evil person, true?
I would say so, yes.
And if you were gonna do something, if you saw an opportunity to rob some rich girl and get all the money, whatever she's got, what greater opportunity than for you to rob Dr. Hatcher with Christopher Love, knowing that if anything ever happened to Dr. Hatcher, it ain't you who's going to get blamed. Brenda Delgado is the one they're going to look at because she's told everybody but Santa Claus that she doesn't like Dr. Hatcher, and she wants to still be with Ricky. True?
I would say yeah.
That's witness.
Would you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for court reporter?
My name is Eric Barnes.
In the final 2 days of the trial, lead detective Eric Barnes took the jury through his interrogation of Brenda Delgado.
It's inside the Dallas Police Headquarters Homicide Unit in room 2.
What does she appear to be doing right now?
Putting on makeup, I believe.
So at this point, what we're about to see is after 2 hours, approximately 2 hours of your interview, Ms. Delgado.
Yes.
What do we hear her say right there?
Oh. There was a couple times that I made eye contact with her, and I just wanted her to know that, you know, you may have tricked some people, but I wasn't going for it.
We are at the point in the trial where the defense is obviously resting its case. We do not intend to call Ms. Delgado as a witness.
I would have loved to hear from Brenda Delgado. I would have wanted to hear why she fled. Their theory was that she was an innocent victim, that she was set up by Crystal Cortez, but then so you stayed in Mexico for 6 months on the run until you made the FBI's 10 Most Wanted. What she was doing down there, if she was truly innocent, none of that showed up at the trial.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Genuinely, I do want to tell you, we want to thank you for your time and attention in this trial. That beautiful soul, Kendra Hatcher, she didn't know this lady. Dr. Paniagua, he's broken up with her. He's moved on. He's let her know that he has a new girlfriend. He's not in a love triangle. The only person in a love triangle is her. And it's a love triangle she created. Didn't have to happen. The fact that it did happen is ridiculous. Kendra Hatcher's home. She's home right now. She's home in a box. When you come back with your message to that woman, the message needs to be, lady, you're never going home.
I don't know why people do what they do. I don't know why Crystal did what she did. I think we all know she's a fairly despicable human being. Because if it goes down, who would think anything but Brenda Delgado did this? She was with her. I heard her tell people all these things. They're not going to blame me. I don't have any motive to do anything to Dr. Hatcher, but Brenda sure does. The evidence here shows that there is clear reasonable doubt, and under our law that means not guilty. I ask you to find Brenda Delgado not guilty because under our law of the evidence, she is not guilty. Thank you.
Members of the jury, we stand in recess until you reach a unanimous verdict.
Somebody suggested that we just take a sample vote to start with, and somebody else said, let's raise our hands. I said, let's write it down on paper. We did that calmly and quietly. That first vote was 12-0. Some people prayed. I'm not a religious person. I just sort of sat quietly. Some people meditated. And then a few minutes later, I said, if you guys are ready, let's press the button.
It had been only 20 minutes.
All rise.
Please be seated. I ask the presiding juror if the jury has reached a unanimous verdict.
Yes, Your Honor.
And is your verdict as follows? We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
It is.
Thank you, ma'am. Because of the nature of the case, I'm going to ask you individually for your verdict. I'll start on the bottom row, the chair closest to the gallery, and go 1 through 12.
Yes, guilty, Your Honor. Yes, guilty, Your Honor. 12 times, right down the row.
Mr. Milner, your client having been found guilty of capital murder, is there any reason in law why she should not now be sentenced?
No, Your Honor.
I felt that if anyone deserved a death penalty in this case, I thought Brenda qualified for it.
But despite the verdict, Brenda's decision to flee to Mexico had effectively saved her life.
Mexico's extradition policy means you cannot be brought back to be tried under the death penalty.
Brenda Delgado, please stand. The jury having found you guilty of capital murder, you shall be transferred to the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, wherein you shall be confined for the rest of your natural life. Good luck to you.
I think justice was done. I think if Brenda had not fled to Mexico, she would have gotten the death penalty.
Before being taken away, she was required to hear from Kendra Hatcher's sister and mother.
I take comfort in knowing our God has given our Kendra the ultimate spot in heaven, a spot in which you will never see. You, Brenda Delgado, have earned your spot on this earth behind cold steel bars for the rest of your miserable, pathetic life.
My 5-year-old is her goddaughter, and I'm pregnant with our third that will never get to meet Kendra because of you, because of your evil, because of your envy, as they so perfectly put it. No matter how envious you were of any human being, it does not give you the right to destroy lives, many lives, your own family's lives, our lives, Kendra's lives, my children's lives. Who the hell do you think you are, Brenda?
It's rugged country. It's some of the ruggedest country in North America.
My son's name is Dylan Redwine, yes. And his dad texted me a little while ago and said he could not find Dylan.
You know in the back of your mind that it's not going to end good.
Bring Dylan home! Bring Dylan home!
If you show us today, show where he's at today, I guarantee you, I'll cut you loose.
But Tom, I can't help you with that because I don't know where Dylan's at.
I want everybody to know how much I love that boy.
I want you to do something to find Dylan.
I don't like you, I hate you, and you have been nothing of a father.
I was horrified. The pictures are, of Mark in women's clothing.
Are the photos genuine?
No, they are not.
When I laid eyes on that skull, I knew in my heart it was Dylan.
Okay, just keep your hands up. Don't move, bud, okay?
He was, I think, shocked and surprised. He thought he was off the hook.
I felt it was about damn time.
Do you love your father? I still love him. I wish I didn't have to be here.
Your wife is in a bar, you said she's unresponsive?
This is what he's going to tell you.
How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Police Fire Dispatch. Hi, my name is Elaine Redwine, and my son Dylan Redwine was visiting his dad up in Durango, and his dad texted me a little while ago and said he could not find Dylan.
Okay.
Dylan is 13 years old. Okay, so he's staying with his dad. And what's the dad's name? Mark Redwine. Does he have any idea where he may have gone? Not according to him, no.
I was very scared for my son. I mean, my son wasn't even there for 24 hours and he's missing? I mean, that doesn't happen. I just got in my car and had to go to Durango because I live 6 hours away and try and find my son.
It's rugged country. It's some of the ruggedest country in North America. And my concern was the weather for that night was supposed to go below freezing. I wound up being out till 12:30, 1 o'clock that night. And one of the notable things that I saw is that Mark never came out, never talked to me, and he wound up turning all the lights off in his house like he went to bed, which is very unusual. Usually somebody would light up the house like a beacon.
So what we'll do is we'll divvy you up.
Within days, hundreds of people had volunteered to help search for Dylan Redwine.
Some people for the terrain up the hill, some for between the lake and the road.
Dylan's father, Mark, pushed for the search to center on the area around a mountain lake dam, about 7 miles away.
He described Dylan as a big fisherman, that he loved to go fishing all the time.
He said that he couldn't find his fishing pole and that the fishing pole was missing and that he liked to go fishing down by the dam.
And we're walking along the edges of this road, trying to find possibly Dylan's backpack.
Volunteer Kathy Berry recorded the search around the dam for a Facebook page dedicated to Dylan.
The terrain was really steep. The road along the lake, it just drops straight down on the side and goes down into the water, down onto the bank.
Dylan's mom is in front of me, and she's doing pretty good. She's holding it together pretty good.
And you always fear the worst because he's not there, but we always tried to keep hope because I felt if I lost hope, then everybody else would as well. But as a mom, in the back of your mind that it's not going to end good.
And you guys are friends of Dylan's, right?
Yes.
Right. And Ryan, you were the last person to talk to Dylan on Sunday night, right?
Yes.
And so tell me what was going on. You guys were just texting and...
He sounded really excited to come over. He was actually supposed to stay the night, but decided not to for some reason, I don't know why. And then we decided that he would just come over at 6:30 in the morning. That's just what he asked. And I said that was fine. And so I set an alarm, and I woke up in time, and he never showed up.
So anything else you guys want to say about your friend Dylan?
Hope he comes home soon.
Yeah, hope he comes home soon.
People would come out, ask what they could do. Did you check here? Did you check here? Where a kid might be? Nothing.
Loving God, we pray first and most of all for Dylan. We know that you are aware of where he is and what his needs are. And so we pray for him now.
When I think of the word Dylan, the first thing that comes to my mind is perfect. And for this to happen to him is just horrible because he doesn't deserve it.
Dylan's father, Mark, spoke about his son in the past tense.
I want everybody to know how much I love that boy and how much I cared about him. He was such a wonderful boy. He meant everything. And unfortunately, his mom and I don't see eye to eye on things. And I wish that could change.
I asked him, I said, did you and Dylan get into a fight? And he said no. And I said, well, Dylan wouldn't just leave or run away without either texting me or Corey.
The first thing I told Mark, is this is your responsibility and we gotta find him. What'd you do with Dylan?
Soon, sheriff's deputies and the FBI were asking Mark Redwine the same question, and the family blame game escalated.
Obviously, it's no secret that I believe that Lane could be involved in this. You know, I don't know how she would do it. I don't know who else she would have involved with it, but I can't help but think that there's a possibility that she had some involvement with this.
He had some really bad answers at the end of the first interview because he blamed Elaine, Dylan's mom, for Dylan's disappearance and said it's probably her fault, and he thought that Dylan had just run away because of problems with Elaine.
Dylan had flown into Durango to spend the Thanksgiving week with his father as part of a court-ordered visitation.
He did not want to go. I mean, he was okay going because he wanted to see his friends in that area. But my mom was pretty sick with cancer, and we knew it would probably be her last Thanksgiving, and Dylan really wanted to spend it with my mom. I called my lawyer and, you know, said, what can I do? And she said, really nothing. It's a court order. You know, you really need to put him on the plane.
It did not appear that this was a happy reunion. Even in the airport, when Dylan first got off the plane, there was no smiles, there were no hugs.
The first stop was a Walmart to buy some movie DVDs.
You know, in the cameras in the Walmart, Dylan and Mark are not together, shopping together.
Dylan is texting the friend he had wanted to spend the night with, Ryan.
So Dylan's already asserting himself to say he's there on a mandated visit, but he doesn't want to spend time with Dad.
The last time Dylan was seen alive was after he and his father left the Walmart, stopped for a hamburger, and headed to Mark's home.
As Mark describes it, they're not real warm towards each other at first, but they start roughhousing. You know, I asked a couple times, was anybody hurt in this thing? And no, nobody's hurt.
At 9:46 that night, Dylan's phone stopped working.
Bring Dylan home! Bring Dylan home! Bring Dylan home! Bring Dylan home!
2 months after Dylan disappeared, his mother Elaine and brother Corey joined a protest outside Mark Redwine's home.
Our buddy, our heart! Where is Dylan? Our buddy, our heart!
Corey's getting ready to do another interview.
Well, right now, you know, he was the last person to see him, and he's not, you know, helping out with, you know, giving us answers that we have questions to. So until we can put all of the attention back on Dylan, we got to get it off the last person to see Dylan. And right now, he's making it as hard as he can to get the attention off of him. There's still a lot of doubt in me that he didn't have anything to do with it.
So you think he did have something to do with it?
I do.
With the FBI's help, sheriff's deputies carried out a search warrant on Mark Redwine's house.
His eyes were bloodshot, but it didn't seem like he was crying. To me, it looked staged, as like he was looking like he was emotional.
The cadaver dogs alerted to human remains, the odor of human remains within Mark Redwine's house and the back of his pickup.
We knew something had likely happened in the house. When he said the roughhousing, no one was hurt, our thoughts were something else had happened and that the roughhousing was explaining something else.
And to move forward was to take the polygraph.
And sheriff's investigator Tom Cowing pressed Redwine to come clean after delivering the results of a lie detector test.
You've taken it once, Elaine took it once, she passed it, and you failed it.
He was found to be deceptive, specifically to the question of, do you know where Dylan Redwine is? And he failed miserably.
If you lead us to him, I absolutely guarantee you that I would not arrest you today. If you told me where Dylan is today, and you take me to Dylan, show me where he's at, and we'll drop you back off at your car at your house, and we get Dylan back. And you go on with your life. Because what's more important is we want him back home.
I want that.
If you show us today, show where he's at today, just bring us there. I guarantee you, I'll cut you loose. I'm not going to arrest you today.
But Tom, I can't help you with that because I don't know where Dylan's at.
And I think you do. I know you do. If he fell down accidentally and hurt himself and you freaked out and panicked, then you put him somewhere. You know, it's better to get in front of this than to have somebody down the road find him and then, oh, what do we do now? Well, he's in a shallow grave. This doesn't look good. Last seen by Dad. Or you can just tell us where he's at and work with us, and we'll deal with all the other stuff later.
I'm not going to sit here and admit to you that I've done something that didn't happen, that I didn't do. And if that's what you're waiting on, then we're going to be waiting a long time for that.
I got all the time in the world. When's enough? Enough? I mean, when's it going to be too much for you to hide?
And Mark Redwine had a lot to hide, as investigators would learn from his other son, Corey.
We were in Cleveland. We were on a trip with Mark. We went to, I believe, a baseball game that day. Mark was asleep.
Late at night in the hotel room, Dylan had borrowed his father's computer.
Corey, come here. I got to show you these pictures. We came across a deleted file. It showed all the pictures that had recently been deleted. I was horrified. The pictures are, of Mark in women's clothing. I think he's got a red shirt on, wearing women's pantyhose and underwear, and he relieves himself in his diaper, and, he cleans it, with his mouth. And that's when I pulled out my cell phone and just took a few pictures of what was on the laptop. It's a place my mind never dreamed of, going, let alone seeing it, in my own father, so it's a terrible thing I'll have in my mind forever. I told Dylan after we saw the pictures, we got to keep this between me and you. I didn't want Mark knowing that we had those pictures and we knew about it.
But 13-year-old Dylan, as sweet as everyone said he was, never held back if something bothered him.
He didn't like to be quieted, so if he felt a certain way, he would make sure that you knew how he felt. He was just honest and to the point. They had gotten into an argument about me and my mom being a good example for Dylan, and Dylan wanted those pictures to show Mark, what we had seen him as. I could feel the frustration and the fire through, in Dylan. So I knew he was really upset. I ended up sending those pictures to Mark after Dylan had asked for them. I wish I wouldn't have sent them at all.
That's Dylan trying to get some power so he can go up against Dad, like he had seen his older brother do. And so we believe that's what happened, and Dylan has that as he would call, weapon against Mark. And it's a pretty good one.
Ready, 3, take.
This is going to be a changing day in your life.
But with Dylan still missing, Mark's secret was about to become very public and become a key part of the investigation as a likely motive. Elaine, Corey, and Mark Redwine all agreed to appear on the Dr. Phil show, holding nothing back.
I don't like you, I hate you, and you have been nothing of a father.
I want you to do something to find Dylan.
Dylan is everything to me. My whole world revolves around Dylan.
Are the photos genuine?
No, they are not.
So that's not you in the photos?
No, I'm not arguing that it's my face in the photos. What I'm arguing is the fact that they were fabricated, because it was actually, I believe that Elaine and Corey were coming into my house and rummaging through my things and going through my personal belongings when I traveled out of town. I came up with a scheme that had to be so outrageous that they could not talk about it. And that's exactly what I got out of that. Did I ever intend to be sitting here on your show having this conversation with you or them? Absolutely not.
So you're saying they broke into your house and fabricated these pictures?
No. I fabricated the pictures and left them available.
I never let on to anyone, but I think that's when I knew that Dylan was no longer alive. Just by Mark's remarks and his body language and his actions, it made me fear the worst.
This is a really serious matter.
Among the millions of people who watch the Redwine family on Dr. Phil's program.
Thank you for being here today. So long.
Were the authorities back in Colorado who obtained the videos as possible evidence.
It brought Mark forward and put him at the center of the controversy.
So, well, what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
I think it was a public format for Elaine and Corey to publicly accuse me of doing something with Dylan. And I expected too much from Dr. Phil.
The Dr. Phil show resulted in hundreds of leads and tips, but none panned out.
I mean, everything leads back to you, Mark. I mean, we have systematically ruled out a ton of people. You say everything that you do in life is for Dylan. You want to do right for Dylan. Just take us to him and cut you loose.
That's what I want to. No, to you it probably doesn't seem that way.
Actions speak louder than words, Mark. I don't think you're a guy who has a mean bone in his body that will purposely do something like that. But, you know, if it was an accident, you know, we could work with that. You can't undo something that has gone horribly wrong, but you can make amends for something that you did wrong. You can always ask for forgiveness.
All right, well, I'll take that all into consideration.
They didn't have that smoking gun. There was not enough information. We didn't, you don't go forward on a criminal investigation with no body. And I think it was very difficult for people to believe that a father could kill his son. Fathers don't just kill their sons.
The winter weather had shut down much of the search effort for Dylan.
Once snow hits the high country, you can't get up there. Nothing all winter.
Especially on Middle Mountain where we wanted to search. They closed the mountain in the winter, so you can't even get up there.
But once the snow melted, the searchers were finally able to access the Middle Mountain area.
My stepfather caught him up on the mountain early one morning.
And I got the call that Mark was just sighted coming off Middle Mountain Road, and that's what turned our attention to Middle Mountain Road. 35 dog handlers, numerous dogs. We had ATV searchers, we had horseback searchers, we had rappelling teams come in. It was a 4-day search.
It was during that search that a Nike Air Jordan size 7 youth was found. That was the breakthrough.
The shoe appearing to match the one Dylan was seen wearing in the Walmart surveillance video.
The next day, we had the search dogs, the human remain dogs in that area. One dog alerted on 2 bones. While those 2 bones were being collected, I looked down and found a long bone.
The bones were Dylan's.
This is investigator Tanya Galbright. This is a phone call to Mark Redwine.
This is Mark.
Hey Mark, it's Tanya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful, how are you?
Oh, I'm living the dream, the dream.
Are you intoxicated, Mark?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, then why are you talking to me like that?
Because you can't seem to think no deeper than the surface.
He told me to pull my head out of the sociopath's ass and that women are only good for one thing, and it's not cooking and cleaning.
Because I'll I'll be honest with you, Tanya. I don't think you're capable of handling a situation.
Really? Don't you think it's pretty amazing we found any remains up on Middle Mountain? In the middle of nowhere?
You know, 2% of Dylan's remains does not constitute him being found, so you know what?
Yes, it does. He's dead. We know that now. If we hadn't gone up there and looked, we wouldn't have known that.
So 2% of Dylan's remains constitutes him being found.
I'd like to find the rest of him, but yes, we know what happened. We know he's no longer with us.
But there was still no skull, no cranium, which would likely hold the clues to Dylan's cause of death.
Mark made a comment to me several times about how there had only been 2% of Dylan's remains found, so they can never prove he was murdered.
But other bits and pieces of the investigative puzzle began to fall into place.
Mark said that when he was moving his four-wheeler out of the garage, he found the fishing pole in the garage, which is impossible. It had been searched and photographed, and I don't know where it came from, but it was back.
The futile search around the lake and the dam had all been based on the supposedly missing fishing pole.
The fact that he had tried to use this ploy and then was foolish enough to say that he had found it, just indicated that he was being very dishonest with law enforcement.
And then in 2015, almost 3 years after Dylan disappeared, hikers found a skull about a mile away, 6 miles by road from where the other bones had been located.
When I laid eyes on that skull, I knew in my heart it was Dylan. There was no question. I had no question about it.
And that was in 15. I thought, okay, now we're going to move forward. And again, we still didn't move forward. So in 2017, a lot of stuff changed in La Plata County.
The election that year brought a new district attorney, Christian Champagne, who had been working on the case as a deputy district attorney.
The new DA just pressed forward and said, we're going to get a grand jury, and let's see what a grand jury says.
And I just told them to stick with us. It was going to be a long road. It was going to take a while, but that we were going to get to justice for Dylan.
The grand jury returned an indictment of Redwine for second-degree murder and child abuse.
Just keep your hands up. Don't move, bud, okay?
Mark was in Washington State working as a trucker when the indictment came down.
Do not move.
He was, I think, shocked and surprised.
A warrant for murder second for you. I'm sorry?
I have no idea what that's about.
He had become pretty confident that we were never going to bring charges against him, that we had never developed any evidence against him. So he thought he was off the hook.
I felt it was about damn time.
We are live in Colorado, where the case is about to proceed against Mark Redwine in the second-degree murder case in the death of his 13-year-old son, Dylan.
Redwine did not face the more serious first-degree murder charge, which carries a mandatory life sentence.
Here in Colorado, first-degree murder requires plan or premeditation ahead of time. We did not have evidence that he plotted to kill Dylan, so second-degree murder and child abuse resulting in death were the right charges for our case.
It had been almost 9 years since Dylan had disappeared, but for his mother, Elaine, it seemed like yesterday.
Spend a couple minutes telling the jury about Dylan, okay?
Dylan was sweet, he was funny, he was charismatic, he was very empathetic, he really cared about people and their feelings. Very sweet boy.
Hey, Ms. Hall. There's tissues to the left if you need them. You have water with you. See Mark Redwine in the courtroom here today.
Yes, he's wearing a blue shirt and a gray suit. There was plenty of eye contact, and I am not afraid of him anymore, and so I refuse to look away.
Ms. Hall, I'm showing you what's been previously admitted into evidence with peoples 1, 2, and 3. Can you take a look at those, please?
I've seen those a million times.
What are those?
They're pictures of Dylan, his friends, Adam and Joe.
Taken the day before he left to visit his father.
See any injuries, sores, or cuts to his face or lips?
No.
And then her final unanswered text messages to Dylan.
How's it going, son? You okay?
All right, Ms. Hall, I know I can only imagine how hard this is. I'm really sorry.
Thank you.
The final text message in this exhibit, what do you say in that text message, Ms. Hall?
I said, Dylan, please be safe. Mom is here to come get you, son.
Elaine had been unrelenting in her efforts to point a finger of blame at her ex-husband.
You were the last person to see Dylan. That's been confirmed.
And that became a defense line of attack on cross-examination.
I've always said that I believe that he had a hand in Dylan's disappearance, yes.
Okay, and you've told that to a lot of people.
Okay, sure. I mean...
You don't have to go anymore. They know your answer.
You've gone on national television and iterated that opinion, correct?
Yes.
And you've iterated that opinion to law enforcement, correct?
Yes.
And you've iterated that opinion to Facebook platforms, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall making any comments on the Facebook page, Arrest Mark Redwine?
No.
Do you recall making any comments on Arrest Imprison Mark Redwine Facebook page?
No.
You know, you're talking about the grieving mother of a lost child, a murdered child, and to try to attack her and trash her character and say that she was, you know, making this about a vendetta or revenge against Mark, I think really fell flat.
Now the jurors were about to see the compromising photos of Mark Redwine.
And we showed them for a very specific and limited purpose, which is to show that there was conflict and a potential motive for Mark to lash out against Dylan, for Dylan to have confronted his father with these photographs, and that would have been an example of some of the conflict that could have led to Mark lashing out.
Could you please start by introducing yourself to the jury by your full name?
Corey Allen Redwine?
Was there a point in time when Dylan used the defendant's computer?
Yes.
Did he find something on the computer?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury what he found?
He found pictures of Mark dressed in women's clothing, wearing a diaper, taking selfies of him wearing the clothing, wearing the diaper, eating the feces that was in the diaper, and just that's pretty much it.
How did he react to seeing those photographs of his father?
He was pretty disgusted. Dylan lost any reasons for him to look up to Mark that day.
And then prosecutors showed the jury a clip from the Dr. Phil show.
You're saying they broke into your house and fabricated these pictures?
No. I fabricated the pictures and left them available.
So is there any reason back then for him to plant photos like that for you or for Dylan?
No.
Do you love your father?
Yes.
Do you wish you were here under different circumstances seeing your father?
Yes.
To this very day, how do you feel about it?
I still love him. I wish I didn't have to be here.
Not all jurors would believe that's a motive for murder, a motive to kill your own child if they see a picture of you cross-dressing on a computer. That is going to be a hard sell if that were all there was.
And the jury wants to see hard evidence that this man killed his son.
So the prosecution actually recreated Mark Redwine's living room in a courtroom down the hall and brought the jury in.
They could see the layout, they could see the distances, and they could see the actual pieces of evidence with their own eyes. There was blood on the couches, there was blood on the floor, there was blood on the coffee table. And at least one of the deposits was 100% Dylan Redwine's blood. That was probably some of our strongest evidence.
And that area was right in here for this stick.
But Dylan was a frequent visitor to his father's home, and the prosecution witnesses could not say when the blood had been left there, or that it meant a crime had been committed.
Having been to over 1,000 crime scenes, you know how to find evidence of violent struggles and fights, correct?
If it's present, yes.
And in your initial walkthrough, I want to focus your attention on that, you didn't find any evidence of a violent struggle or a fight or bloodletting event in your initial walkthrough, correct?
That is correct.
This is a model of a human skull.
The final days of the trial focused on who or what killed Dylan Redwine.
The significance is that I believe that this is associated with blunt trauma.
But the defense focused on the fact the skull was found in an area where bears and mountain lions roam freely.
Obviously, some sort of sizable animal left puncture marks on that part of the cranium. Coyote, fox, bear, mountain lion.
Yes.
You can't rule out that this fracture comes from either a bear getting really after the cranium and biting down on it and crunching on it.
Correct.
So we knew that they wanted to make that the center of their case and the center of their attack on us, and that an animal or something caused in nature could have been responsible for the fractures on the skull. You know, we have bear, we have mountain lion, but generally they don't move their prey more than about a quarter of a mile.
Dylan's skull was found more than a mile away from his other remains.
It's possible that a bear could carry a skull that far too physically, right?
Yes.
And it's possible that a mountain lion could carry a skull that far physically, right?
Physically, yes.
Have you ever seen anything like that in your career?
Bears and lions, no.
They were never able to put together the pieces to make a plausible argument about how Dylan would have gotten up on this mountainside in shorts and a t-shirt and been attacked by wild animals in the middle of November. It just didn't make sense.
All eyes now were on Mark Redwine to see his reaction, to see if he would testify.
The jurors, they're watching the defendant very, very closely to see what his reactions look like, to watch him as the witnesses are talking about Dylan's murder, Dylan's remains. I mean, a normal father that lost a son would have completely fallen to pieces, and he never even reacted at all. He never shed a tear.
Redwine opted not to testify.
At its core, this is a simple and tragic case. A damaged and deteriorating relationship that turned deadly on November 18th, 2012. We know Dylan knows about the poop pics, as he calls them. I could show them to you, but you remember them, ladies and gentlemen. Think about the impact they had on his 13-year-old son. Do you think it would have taken much for Dylan to use them in November, to bring them up, to talk about them? We know that Dylan's murder was not caused by an accident. We know Dylan's murder was not caused by a bear because of all the evidence that comes before and everything that he did after. And all it took was a spark for this man to end Dylan's life, ladies and gentlemen.
When you're ready, Mr. Bogan.
May it please the court.
Redwine's lawyer, Justin Bogan, delivered the defense closing arguments.
We stand shoulder to shoulder, Mr. Mark Redwine, because it's our honor to stand with someone who's wrongly accused. And the evidence is so thin, and the emotions are so high. So we have government cases based on the pictures. They introduce the pictures as evidence. They want you to believe that these pictures will provide some enlightenment to you about the motive that they ascribed to Mr. Redwine for killing his youngest son, whom he loved. Do not fall for that. The prosecution likes these pictures a lot more than they like the tangible and scientific evidence in this case. They like those pictures more than they like the fact that uncontested damage by animals to the remains. The marks on the cranium are consistent with animal damage. They are creating this narrative about rage and anger and photos and deteriorating relationship. And they want you to latch on to this story because the actual physical evidence in the case does not support that Mark Redwine killed his son.
The trial had lasted for 5 weeks. The jury returned its verdict in 6 hours.
Mr. Redwine, would you please stand up? Jury verdict count number 1, murder in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant, Mark Redwine, guilty of count number 1. Be quiet, please. Count number 2, child abuse. We, the jury, find the defendant, Mark Redwine, guilty of count 2, child abuse.
He knows what he did. He knows. I think he deserves to die. I mean, his son died, and I think he needs an equally horrible death.
But there is no death penalty in Colorado, and the sentence for second-degree murder ranges from 16 to 48 years.
People would bring forward Elaine Hall.
I'm really nervous, so
It's okay.
bear with me. Dylan was 13 years old when you took his life. When I think about what happened that night, it breaks my heart to think about Dylan looking up at his dad knowing he's the killer. He is my killer. It breaks my heart. And I wonder, what were you thinking then when you saw his big old blue eyes? I mean, I don't even think that it fazed you. I'm just glad that we are free from you and that you will not be free to hurt us anymore. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mark may have physically taken him, and I can't change that. But what I can do is tell the world how a 13-year-old young man stood up to his then 50-year-old father and said all the things I regret never saying. Dylan is my hero and became more of a man in 13 years than Mark has in 60.
Do you wish to tell me anything before sentencing?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
But Redwine had expressed his thoughts on the trial in a statement to the probation office.
You wrote the following, and this is a quote from what you wrote. Innocent of all charges, miscarriage of justice, fake conviction, sham trial. I have trouble remembering a convicted criminal defendant that has shown such an utter lack of remorse for his criminal behavior. The community needs to be protected from you. You need to be removed from society for a long period of time. I'm going to sentence you to 48 years on both counts with 5 years of parole. They are to be served concurrently. Deputy Robinson, take the defendant back to jail. Thank you.
I don't think closure is a real part of losing somebody personally. I can't move on from my son. I can't just close the chapter and pretend he never existed. So, I mean, I'll always be sad. I'll always mourn his death. And I'll always celebrate his life.
She and her family never gave up on trying to get justice for Dylan.
Thank you for coming out.
Just in Colorado alone, there's 1,500 cold cases that have gone unsolved. And so the message that I want to send to those families, to those law enforcement officers that are working on these cases, and to the prosecutors that are considering whether to come forward into court and bring these charges, is to keep fighting and never give up.